This podcast is part of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts, visit red5network.com.
And hello, everybody. How's everybody doing out there in Star Wars land? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day, a great week. And here I am. Man, what a week it's been so far. Fast and furious and just absolutely insane. Workloads are increasing. Everyone is just, it's the world's going nuts. It's a mask frenzy. It's a, are you sick? Am I sick? Who's sick? Who do I go first? Do you go first? Kind of a, Poe Dameron kind of, craziness going on right now. But it is a great day to talk Star Wars. And this week we're going to continue with our Star Wars a therapy session. And this week we are going to look at the music of Star Wars, the iconic music, the stuff that resonates in us. And my guest this week is none other than the illustrious, the stupendous, the amazing Mr. Cam Ray.
Wow.
Mr. Cam Ray, how are you?
Thank you. I'm doing stupendous. Yes. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Man, we've talked on and off, I guess over the last month and a half, about doing something together and starting to collaborate a little bit. And I thought, you know what could we talk about that you could really get on board in and sink your teeth into? And I know that you have a passion for not pineapple.
No, not on pizza, especially. So
right.
Wait a minute. Is this an intervention? Wait a minute. You guys, something came up. I've got to go. So.
I know, and there's always something. No, but you have a passion for music,
yes.
And that's something that we have in common. So first off, let me get to my little banners here. Star Wars, the therapy music of Star Wars. I'm a little bit flustered today. It's just like I said, I came home, immediately started doing dishes and cooking dinner and getting kids all sorted out. So I made these banners kind of quickly, just trying to get it in. And of course, you are Cam Ray with the explanation. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I'm from Florida. The crazy state of Florida. I've lived here my whole life. I grew up in the northeast section of Florida. I'm now in the Panhandle. Just growing up in relation to Star Wars, I've always been, a big fan of Star Wars. Grew up in the 80s and around the original trilogy. Always had the toys and all that good stuff. And then when I was 6, I started taking piano lessons. And then I, stuck with that all through school, went to college and majored in jazz piano performance, because that's what people do, it's if you really want to make it big, and so I've always been into music, and I've always been into like filmmaking and acting and all of that. And I attribute a lot of that to Star Wars, just because my mom would show me when I was really young the behind the scenes videos of the original trilogy, and I was just amazed, like seeing like the Death Star in the back of a pickup truck, being blown up or whatever, and just I'm like, oh my gosh. And so growing up, I always said I was going to work for Industrial Light and Magic and all of that. So I've always been in just really into anything creative, whether it's drawing or acting or music. And I've always played music professionally. And then about 10 years ago, I started teaching as well. I teach Montessori. Actually, it's a method of teaching. But anyway, so I teach and I play music for different events and weddings and functions and whatnot. And then I spend time on Twitter doing Star Wars stuff, which I can like kind of bring all that stuff together. So, and met a
Awesome.
lot of cool people doing that.
So normally I ask, people what is like their earliest Star Wars memory that you might have?
Well, I can't really remember the exact earliest one, but I always say my most vivid memory is the first time you see Vader come onto the ship in A New Hope. And so that's just kind of one of those images that's stuck there. And then the other one is Yoda lifting the X-Wing. If we're talking about movies, those two.
Mm-hmm.
And then childhood wise, I would playing with Jabba's palace as far as toys are concerned. That was, I know I wore that out. I remember that pretty vividly. And then lightsaber duels, of course, but that's so.
Right. Well, awesome. Well, I know that that you are really into the music aspect of things, but there's been a lot of movies that I really like the music to. I like a lot of different types of music that I'm sure we'll probably get into here in a little while, but there's nothing quite like the Star Wars music that once it comes on, even that first opening note, and you hear it and you're like, oh, that's Star Wars. Okay.
Yep.
So is there anything that really sticks out that is like, this is Star Wars as far as music goes, or where does the Star Wars music rank for you as far as like movie scores?
Oh, I mean, it's at the top. It's kind of one of those things, even like when you're ranking movies or movie music, I always just say, well, Star Wars doesn't count, because if it does, it doesn't matter what we're comparing, it's always going to win. So I kind of put in, it doesn't even contend. So I basically put it at the top, but that's, John Williams' scores in general, he's my favorite movie composer. But I mean, I contribute that to Star Wars, but I mean, you can just look through his whole catalog, it's just pretty much anything he has his hand on. And what's so cool is a lot of times you can tell, hey, that's John Williams, but then sometimes you'll go back and you'll be, I'll be watching a movie from years ago, and then you'll see, music by John Williams. And I never realized, because he can just delve into so many different styles. And so anyway, I would put it up there at the top, and it's so iconic. And I think part of it is because of how he was, he kind of mimicked a lot of the classic composers, and he took their ideas and made them his own, but he just has a way of taking a theme. I might be jumping too deep into this for your question, but I like how he takes like a simple theme, and he'll take what's so simple and then add these complex harmonies and counterpoint and all kinds of, rhythmic syncopations. And what was simple is just, it's amazing. It's almost mind blowing. So, and I think that's what makes it. It's like, you can hear the melody, the simple melody. So you don't have to be a musician or have an ear for music to pick it out, but yet you can also, on the other side of things, like as someone who's studied music and kind of likes to really it's more of an academic thing as well, you can get into that as well and just, dive deep into the minutia of it. So.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of people that say, oh, this band is the soundtrack of my life, or this group, or this genre. To me, John Williams is the soundtrack of my life. And as you said, there's so many movies that I loved, and I was just like, wow, I really felt this connection with this movie, or for whatever reasons, I can't figure it out. Then I'll look and I'll see John Williams did the music for it.
Yep.
One of them, Hook, one of my all-time favorite movies. Robin Williams was amazing in it. But I was like, man, there's just something more. It's modern, it's classic, it's got this, the twists and the turns, and it gives you the highs and the lows. And I'm like, wow, who did the music for that? And I looked it up, and it's John Williams. I'm like, no wonder I love the movie.
It's so funny you say that, because that's the movie I was alluding to. I didn't remember which movie it was, but a few weeks ago we watched Hook. My daughter had never seen it, and it's one of my all-time favorite movies, as far as surrounding the Peter Pan story, and like you said, it was the first time I really noticed the music in it. I've watched it a bunch of times, but I just love Dustin Hoffman in it and Robin Williams. I'm like, man, they're awesome. The acting, I've always loved the story. But like you said, there's something that stood out. I was like, this music is next level. And I was like, I wonder who did it. And of course, sure enough, should have known.
Yeah. And it's Star Wars has shaped my life ever since I was a little baby. And when I had the opportunity to play an instrument, the first thing I wanted to learn was how to play some of the Star Wars music. And so in fourth grade, I started with a recorder, and I managed to figure out the fingerings for the main theme of Star Wars. And as I've progressed, I went through all through high school, junior high in band, high school in band, college in band, doing marching band and things like that, concert band, played I don't know how many different instruments. I think the total was 17, I think.
Oh, wow.
Between it's like all the clarinets, all the types of saxophones, all baritones and trumpets and tubas, and learn flute and all the percussion areas, and
Nice.
and I just loved music. And I think John Williams for me is the one who turned me on and turned that switch on in my life.
Oh, definitely. And like I always say, he kind of he makes people, like classical music who don't think they like it. I use it all the time. And, I teach general education, but I also teach music at the school I'm at. And so obviously that's great opportunity for me, because they know they're going to get Star Wars music all the time. But they love it. Like when people are working, I'll put it on, or not just in a music lesson or something, but there's so much you can dive into it. And there's something in Star Wars for everybody. It covers the range of emotions and all of that. So,
right. And not even just John Williams, because here recently with, not that it's recent, but the Clone Wars.
Oh man.
And Kevin
Kiner. Yes.
Yes. He did some, and, who was it? Ryan Shore, I think, did some as well. Who did the Mandalorian music?
I can't pronounce his name. It's oh gosh. Maybe someone in the chat got it. I can look it up real quick.
Maybe, yeah.
I
was trying to remember how to. Ludwig Göransson.
Right. I was going to say Johann. I'm like, I know that's not right.
And the banner that I have up now is Through the Ages, music through the ages, kind of like Star Wars through the ages. There have been, whether it's the Clone Wars stuff, whether it's Solo or Rogue One or the Mandalorian series. I mean, just the music that's behind those conveys such an elaborate meaning that it's. You can hear the Williams in there, but you also have that different spin on it, which to me was absolutely amazing. And for the Göransson's Mandalorian, that spaghetti Western feel that you have with it. And I was like, I heard, as soon as I saw the trailer and heard the music, I'm like, ooh, I have to see this now. This is going to be amazing.
It's great. And at first I wasn't sure, because you get so locked into that whole, John Williams, but I'm also always open, and it's just, I have to say, there's something about it. It is the music for the Mandalorian now. It started, it was kind of not off-putting, but just it wasn't familiar, but and the more I watch it and then watch him and see his process and just kind of the intent behind the creators, where they're always so intentional with everything they do. And I think he was the perfect pick for what they were going for. And so, but yeah, I agree. And same with Kevin Kiner in the Clone Wars, he nails it. It's like he studied John Williams, as he was coming up, but then it's his own. He made it his own, but it's still Star Wars,
Well, when I first heard it, I was what it reminded me of was the music of, and I'm going to massacre this name, Ennio Morricone.
Right.
In fact,
the master of spaghetti westerns.
Yeah, and I think he just passed away recently,
right,
like a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I was like, wow, it's like, and I had to go back and listen to several hours of his music. It just, almost as like, as a tribute, but
right.
I could, as I was listening to it, I'm like, oh, wow, I could really pick out some of the key things that the Mandalorian guy used to shape his sound and to get that feel. I'm like, wow, that's just, it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. It comes across, it's got the kind of the technical side, the kind of the robotic side, but then it's got the Western, the simple kind of that. And then it still throws in the orchestra, bringing the classic Star Wars sound. So it's awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say one thing I think about Star Wars, and this is true with a lot of movie scores, but Star Wars specifically, there's something about it. You can just play the score and you can visually see every single beat of the film and get the same and that's what music does. But some movies, the score, it's kind of like take it or leave it. But with Star Wars, it's take all of it, because it just sets you up. And I can remember that with the prequels, them releasing the soundtracks before the movies came out. And I had the thing memorized before I even had seen the film. And, you'd hear like one little part of the Imperial March hidden in a cello. You're like, oh my gosh, what's happening right there, and so, but it's so awesome, that you can just visualize the whole thing.
Absolutely. There's one scene that that I had, and I was in the theater, and I stood up during Solo, and I thankfully it was like a midday show. I was like one of 4 people that were in there to see it, and when he goes in, spoiler alert, whatever. When they him and Kira get separated and he starts to go into the shipyard and gets in line, the Imperial March is playing, but it's in a major key and not the minor.
Yes, we just watched it a couple nights ago, and I noticed that it's the Imperial March, but it has a few changes in the chords that makes it happier because it's propaganda. They're like, hey, come on, join the Empire. And it's that happy version of the Imperial March.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's a little faster too, kind of like, it's not as dark. And yeah, it's kind of funny.
And you find that everywhere especially in the what I think is would be the sequel trilogy. You hear bits and pieces of either the prequel trilogy or the original trilogy, and it's just kind of sprinkled in there, and it automatically takes your mind back. I'm like, oh, right. And it just that association, and it's like, oh, okay. And they did it so much with The Force Awakens that I think that's what really got a lot of people to say, oh, this is just a Star Wars remake. Because they matched a lot of the pacing, and the music was very, very, very similar.
Yep. No, it's great, but it's one of those things, whether it's conscious or subconscious, it does it brings those feelings or emotions back, and it just, I think it ties you in even closer to the film. Or like in Rise of Skywalker, they talked about it on the special features with John Williams, how he took Kylo's theme,
Mhm.
and then he just switched it around under some major chords at the end when he was Ben. Same theme, but it's very subtle. But it's like, oh, now he's, it went from minor to major, and just a slight change, and you don't even notice it. Like I never noticed that until I saw the special, that and then I was watching it the other night and specifically listened for that, and it's like, oh, there it is, and so
I love the way that that when you get just a little nugget of information about, especially the music, and when you watch it back again, it opens up almost a whole new movie. And you see it as, it's so fresh, at that time. But yeah, and I don't know if it's just because maybe Star Wars has gone on for so many films, for 11 films, 12 films, if you count the Clone Wars one. But where they have such a well to draw from. But to me, it's like the only franchise that can do that. Maybe Superman, but again, John Williams wrote the first two, maybe three.
I think he did all three, right?
And then I think they switched it up for 4 for Quest for Peace, because nobody wanted to
a lot up on that one.
Yeah. But I think, it's Star Wars is just unique, where it can just a bar or a phrase can bring you either back or forward to a different movie, and it just ties it all together.
Yeah. And I think he said, John Williams, he used pretty much every theme in Rise of Skywalker from all the movies in some way. And it's just, I haven't heard them all, but that's just crazy. It's kind of fun too. It's almost like a Where's Waldo of music, so.
All right. So now we're going to get a little bit into the nitty gritty.
All right.
So I think what I wanted to do is we're just going to take, instead of individual movies, we'll take it by series. Okay. So instead of just A New Hope and what's your favorite piece here, what's your favorite piece there, we'll just kind of go, original trilogy, prequel trilogy, sequel trilogy.
Great.
So if you can you think of your favorite piece that is in the original trilogy?
Yeah. So when I first think of that, my head goes to Imperial March, but I think my favorite piece has got to be the Force theme. Just it's in the the throne room. At the end, they have it playing, but I think the reason I like that so much is because how it can be used in so many different ways, and like we were kind of saying, I guess any of them can, but that Force theme, it's beautiful. So it can be like a bittersweet, ballad. You can turn around and it can be like in the middle of a battle, and or it can be like in an award ceremony, and it can bring all those different feelings, but it's so powerful because it's the Force theme, but it does what it's supposed to. It's got that weight to it. And again, it's a simple theme. There's not much to it if you just break down the melody notes, but man, you put those chords and the different arrangements you can put to it, and it's beautiful. And then my number 2, I did a second place on these as well, would be the Imperial March. Man, just the rhythm of it, just when it starts, just that little underlying rhythm. So.
Oh, absolutely. So for mine, I went with Leia's theme.
Okay.
And
as well.
Oh, it reminds me so much of my mom, that it's soft. It starts off so tender, and then it gets stronger and bold, and I could almost see Leia just, standing up, for herself and taking charge. And at the end, it just kind of, it's like, here I am. And it really reminds me of the way that my mom was. And I believe that was her favorite character as well. And so, yeah, it just that really resonated with me. My number 2 was the same as yours, and that was the Imperial March. I almost picked the Force theme, but we'll I think I'll get into that here in a little bit on why I didn't pick that one.
Cool.
All right. So
Awesome.
Let's see. I asked the chat if they had any questions for you. So while we take a break from Star Wars, what is the first concert you ever went to?
Okay. Well, I'll just tell you, the first concert I ever went to was the Monkees, the classic rock band from TV. But I loved the watching the Monkees reruns and all when I was a kid, and my mom was into the Monkees, and they were coming to town along with Herman's Hermits, and and there's one, I forget who. There's a third band, but anyway, a band of that, in that wheelhouse. And so that was my first, full on packed arena concert, and it was awesome. And so, but anyway, so it would be the Monkees, and I think the second one was in middle school. I think it was Kenny G, so we don't have to talk about that.
All right, here's a bonus question for you. How many of the Monkees can you name?
Not Mickey, Mike, Peter, Davey, and who am I missing here? No, is it Mickey?
Mickey, I believe.
Mickey, Peter.
Let's see.
Davey. Is there a Mike and a Mickey?
There might. Let's see.
There's Mickey Dolan. It's Mickey Dolenz, because I met him later on because he came to town for a festival. When he was older, and
right.
Yeah, because it was Mike. Yeah, I think wasn't it Mike?
Maybe Mike.
Mike.
Mickey Dolenz. Then there was Davy Jones.
Peter
York,
and then I think the guy that wore that little beanie. I thought it was Mike.
Now I'm gonna have to look it up.
Somebody. Mueller.
Come on, chat. Who was the other monkey?
Oh man. Oh man.
Okay. And it's not York.
Peter
it's
Tork.
Tork.
Yeah, it is. And Michael Nesmith. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay. All right.
That was it.
Cool. Hey, that's great
monkey
question.
trivia.
Absolutely. All right.
Oh, sweet. David Lee Roth.
Yeah. My first concert that I went to, I guess, was, well, I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan. Cool. They did a Tyler Jazz Festival in the Square in Tyler, Texas. And I just happened to be walking by and he was up there, and I was like, wow, I really I like the sound, and I had to find out who it was, and then found out that, it was Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yeah. But the actual concert that I paid for was in 1997. And I went and saw, it was the Family Values Tour. Blue October, Blue Monday, Blue something, Ice Cube, Korn, Limp Bizkit, and Rammstein.
Oh, wow.
That was the first one that I had gone to, and since then I became a concert junkie. I think I've been to over 250 live shows and seen over 170 live bands. Wow. So I love live music.
Nice.
So all right, and now back to Star Wars. Favorite piece in the prequel trilogy?
All right, I'm gonna go with Across the Stars, just because it is beautiful, and it's one of those where it's I had to, you hear it and you think it's part of, at least for me, it feels like it's part of the original trilogy, like it's always been there. Like, no, it wasn't, it didn't exist until the prequels, but it's one of those songs that feels like, no, that's just, that's part of Star Wars, and it's beautiful. Then my second one would be Duel of the Fates. I know they're probably the go-to answers, but there's a reason they're the go-to answers, I guess. But yeah, so those would be the two.
Absolutely. And in my top two are number one was Duel of the Fates. There's just something about it that really, it was almost Wagnerish.
Mm-hmm.
And just that it was that, I don't know, summed up that space opera feel to it.
Yep.
That is just with the choral arrangement behind it, and the action and the way that it just kept going on, and just it almost felt like you're riding a horse and just rolling along.
Yeah.
And then was it Across the Stars?
Yes.
Was number two.
Nice. All right. We just flip-flopped.
Right. Oh, all right. And I haven't seen any other questions from the chat, so we'll move on. Favorite piece in the sequel trilogy?
All right. This one was a little more difficult. I think kind of what we were saying, because there's so many, it's a lot of revival of the other pieces, and in listening to it, a lot of, what stands out are, pieces or themes that are already existing, but kind of morphed into others. But I really think the March of the Resistance, I really like that, because he was able to take kind of some similar ideas and rhythmic ideas and melodic ideas that we're already used to that really feel like Star Wars, but manipulate them into a new kind of what the Resistance was, kind of, it's slightly different version of the rebellion. And so it kind of, I think, did that well with that song. And then my second one, well, I guess it's a tie, either Rey or Kylo's themes. I like both of those. I like Rey's theme because it was kind of different, and it gave you that kind of simplicity, but kind of mystery at the same time behind her, and just the way it can build kind of from the simple little chord, few chords, a little loop with the piano or the flute, and then it can just build. And then Kylo's theme, I love that one. Just, 3 or 4 notes, 5 notes, but it says so much because of the intervals he uses, and it just gives it that, you can tell, you hear it, and in the low brass, it's like, all right, this guy's evil.
Yeah,
he's not good.
Absolutely. Yeah, mine were, and I couldn't, I couldn't decide which theme, so I just put themes, character themes, because I really liked the darkness of Kylo's, but there's just something light, but I don't know, I guess hopeful about Rey's theme that I just really gravitated towards. And anytime I hear it, I'm just like, hope, it's just, it gives me that, that push that I really, really, really enjoyed. And then the second one, I really liked the track that was number 9 on the CD, or the playlist, and it's the Rathars. Just the pandemonium that goes on with it, because they're everywhere, and you don't know what they're doing. You don't know exactly what they are. And it's fast paced. It's got that, it's just, you never know what's going to happen. And the music almost sets you on the front of your seat, and you're just waiting for it. So,
yeah. When he's got so many of those, it was tough, because you'll hear those, and I love those. Anytime there's, you've got the chase scene, any kind of a fast-paced, high energy, high stakes, he does that so well with his rhythms and and so that's a good one.
All right. Kylo in the chat said that he liked the March of the Resistance and the Emperor's theme in Rise of Skywalker, which again was kind of a throwback to the piece in Return of the Jedi when he's in the throne room scene. And man, it just it brought it full circle for me when I heard that one, and I was like, oh, that's I don't know
Oh, yeah.
how this is going to happen, but this is definitely where it's at. So
Oh yeah, anytime. I mean, anytime the Emperor is in a scene or Palpatine, it's just, oh man, it's on. He's up there with one of my favorites.
he is ultimately my favorite character. Everybody looks at me funny when I say that, but
know,
you know, it was like when you first see him, even in the hologram in Empire Strikes Back, and you're like, ooh, who's that guy? And
Yeah.
you know, what happened to him? And you know, it's just cool as a cucumber, so confident in himself and his abilities, and the music even reflects that.
Oh yeah, Ian McDiarmid is he's amazing because like so he just portrays evil so well. But then he plays that. I don't know if you've seen the movie Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, the old Steve Martin. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
like he plays the butler in that, and it's like he's like the comic relief, like this, the hired help, and it's like, man, that guy, but then to be so commanding, when he's playing the Palpatine. So.
Yeah, there an embarrassing kid story, or me embarrassing the kid story, actually comes from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and we'll be at like a restaurant or something, and there'll be a bunch of people around, and I'll look at one of my kids and I'll say, "May I go to the bathroom?" And they're like, "Yeah," and I'll just get that look
back and forth.
Ah, thank you. And then, Dad.
Love it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I had to watch this scene because I keep telling them I need a cork for my fork. And they're like, what? I need a cork for my fork. And they're like, why? And I go, boom, right up to my glasses. Dad. It's like, oh, you don't understand. You'll have to watch the movie when you're older. So, but yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. All right. So not necessarily, specifically, your favorites, but is there other pieces of music in Star Wars? I mean, this could be Clone Wars. This could be, Mando, or any of the other movies that really catch your ear and you enjoy.
Oh man, that's a tough one. Don't say everything. So, well, I think kind of like I can't think of one thing specifically, but like I kind of said before, any of the scenes where you're having a chase, like I love when he brings in like the hand drum when they're chasing Zam. What is it? Attack of the Clones. Just he'll bring in that different element. It's like the fast pace bongos playing. And or anytime he just his utilization of like the brass, just keeping those fast paced, rhythmic ideas going, and then just wailing over the top, with the strings or the trumpets. So I can't think of a specific song. Oh, Yoda's theme. There we go. That's up there. Leia's theme, obviously, that's beautiful. It's very similar to in Indiana Jones, that love theme, and just the chordal structure, and I love that. Just, oh man. But I think Yoda's theme is up there because of the way it kind of builds. It's I don't want to get too technical, but kind of like a whole tone. So it doesn't really resolve. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger, kind of like Yoda. It's like he's so small, but yet you realize, oh man, this guy's got the power,
Absolutely. Kilo said, Battle in the Snow, Empire Strikes Back.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. The way the piano starts, it's like a machine, and it just builds. And that thing, like, speaking of intensity, it just doesn't stop, Yeah.
That was a good one. I really liked, as far as like percussion, the Tusken Raiders when they're attacking Luke, and you have that brudum, and then it kind of screeches, and then the guy holds the stick over his head, and it's just like, oh wow, It's just like, well, it's a fight scene. It's like, oh, what's going on? And
It's great. It's very tribal, and it almost kind of alludes to like the kind of like the samurai type film, as well. So I think it's kind of a
yes,
mix there. So
yeah. Another iconic thing or piece of music that I can't believe we haven't talked about yet: the cantina scene in A New Hope.
oh right.
I mean, it's just like it doesn't get other than and I guess this is where I was going to bring in things like the Force theme, because the Force theme is in every movie, I believe. I believe it's still in Rogue One. I believe it's in Solo a little bit, just a hint here or there.
Mhm.
But in the main 9 movies, the Force theme is present in all of
Yes.
them. And with it being so reoccurring, that's why I kind of put it down here instead of one of my favorites. Classic piece of music that means so much. But between that one and then the
Yes.
no,
No,
it's
you're right. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
no, that's right. You had a thought in your head.
I was just saying I was just saying with the cantina, I think that goes back because John Williams has some history with jazz as well, and I like how he brings that in. Kind of, it's like it's different from the classical score, and actually, this is the actual music that they're listening to in this world, versus just kind of setting the mood of the film. And I like how he kind of incorporates that, kind of that jazz feel, probably just partly because I, played jazz and like jazz, but I really like that, and it kind of stands out. And I was just gonna say we used that a few years ago at my school. We always do like a spring performance. It's not always music related. Sometimes it's just like a skit or something, or music or art or something. But one year it was, I think 2 years ago, it was on May 4th. So of course, it's like, well, we got to do something with Star Wars, and we had these kind of some everybody made some box drums, and we did a little drum thing, but then we ended it with the cantina theme, but using kazoos, and it was pretty cool. But it was a lot of fun, and because we listened to it a bunch, and they had to really learn the different parts, and so it's a lot of fun.
There was late 90s where I went to go see the Boston Pops, and John Williams ended up conducting, and they were getting ready to do an intermission. And, they had the announcement, hey, we're going to take a short intermission. Feel free to, do this, do that, whatever, go grab a drink. And as they start playing some music, over loudspeakers, and Williams comes back out on the box and says, no, that's not going to cut it. And they stop the music. He gets back up on the box, and he does the intermission music to the cantina scene. And he's like, everybody get up, go do it, and he just plays a little bit of that. Everybody just starts laughing, sits immediately right back down,
Right.
and waits for him to be done. But I was like, man, that's just so awesome.
That's cool.
So, yeah. Any other things that really that strike you as far as the music goes for Star Wars?
I'm trying to think. Not off the top of my head. Which is
There's just so much that's in there that it's hard to break down in just such a short amount of time. I mean, we can just go thematics, or
Right.
just character themes, or Rebels versus Empire, because it's so split down the middle that this is Empire. This is when they're on. They're focusing on the Empire part, or this is focusing on the Rebel part. I could probably just listen to the soundtrack of A New Hope and immediately know and almost verbatim the lines in the movie and what's going on just by the music.
Yep.
And
No, and like you're saying, like in a battle, because if you're watching it visually, it's going back and forth. But like you said, if you're listening to the music, you don't need the visual because you've got, here's the little theme here from the Empire, and then all of a sudden you've got the theme over here, and then the Force theme kind of plays through the middle of it, and oh, that's what I was gonna say earlier is with the Force theme. I think it's kind of because the Force is everywhere. I think that's kind of probably intentional that it's woven throughout, because it's kind of the glue of the whole thing,
Yeah. Miss Lauren in the chat says Jedi Steps and A New Home for the sequel trilogy. And yes, those are great. And I just, man, it's just, you can't really go wrong. No. You could just pick, number 4 on this track or this CD. We're going to pick number 7 for this CD, and it's just gonna, it'll make anybody's day.
Yeah, it's a right answer every time. Oh, I like when Lauren mentioned the New Home. I was just thinking at the end. I think it's kind of cool within the sequel trilogy with Rey's theme. You kind of have those bookends. How we're talking about her theme being so simple, but yet. And she's back on that little, she slides down on, I forget what she slides down on in Rise of Skywalker, down into the Skywalker, she's kind of slides down into the homestead, and it's kind of going back to when we first meet her. But that theme, it brings it all right back,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, and as we said at the top of the show, it's just the magic of Williams and what he brings and his experience. And I was trying to, tell the kids, I'm like, it's, she's, I think it was my 17 or 16-year-old that was like, man, you always talk about John Williams a lot. And I'm like, well, you like E.T.? Yeah. Superman? Yeah. Star Wars? Yeah. Harry Potter? Yeah. All John Williams. What? Yeah. Jaws? I haven't seen it, but I know the music. John Williams. And she's like, really? What? Yeah. He's been conducting music since the late 60s, and he's done so many. Any Spielberg movie, Lucas movie, Indiana Jones, he's did. That's you're gonna find it, and you'll find something. Sorry, Lauren just saw a familiar sticker, so had to show it off. But it's just, and it's crazy. And this kind of brings me to my next question for you. What other types of music do you like? So I know you like jazz, but as far as, let's start off with composers. We all agree that Williams is one of the tops. Is there another composer that you really enjoy listening to as well?
Well, if we're talking about movies, I really like James Horner. A lot of the movies he does, it's like, oh my gosh, again, a wide spectrum of films, and just, it's kind of in that wheelhouse. And I love Danny Elfman because, especially like, the Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands era, Danny Elfman, like, oh my gosh, he just has such a whimsical kind of, I think it kind of to match the, kind of match the Tim Burton side of things that, I think, but I like Danny Elfman. Michael Giacchino, man, he's way up there on my list. And Lauren says Kevin Kiner, same.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that dude, I'm like, just go ahead and let him handle the Star Wars films from here on out. I'm good. He's got it, I'm trying to, and then older Bernard Herrmann, I love. He composed music for Psycho.
Okay.
And he did a bunch of other movies in that era, but just, man, if you listen to that sound, and I use that a lot, it's probably tormenting the kids, but I use it in music, and at school, and because oh my gosh, like the all he used were strings, and like the shower scene, and then like the going down the stair, walking up down the stairs, in the house at the Bates Motel and all that. Just the way he was able to use just strings and just like, I think he's an amazing composer as well. There's so many. I don't know if I could even, be listening to them all day.
There's one that I enjoy, and I don't know much of his other work other than Dances with Wolves, but John Barry,
yes,
when he did Dances with Wolves, wrote a masterpiece. I can throw that on at any time and just be transported back into that movie. I really enjoyed that one. As you said, Danny Elfman. I remember Oingo Boingo, and I'm sure people in the chat and the youngsters that are out there are like, Oingo who? But yes, Oingo Boingo was a rock band, retro rock band, psychedelic rock band in the 80s that wrote some fantastic music. The lead singer was Danny Elfman, who then went on to collaborate with Tim Burton in every movie that he's ever made, I believe, or close to it. Wrote the amazing Batman movie for it was 1989.
Yes.
Did Batman Returns as well, and has done so many other movies. Hans Zimmer is another one that I really enjoy. And I think I got into him mainly because of the Christopher Nolan Batman series.
Yes.
And once I heard that in The Dark Knight, the way that, and I watched a masterclass on him on how he developed the sound for those characters, and I was like, wow. So then I had to go back and listen to a lot more of his stuff. And once you hear a little bit of their explanation on where their mind is at and how they go about creating the sounds for us to enjoy, it just, for me, it gives me a just greater appreciation.
Yep. And I'll throw in Howard Shore as well. And, and John Barry did the James Bond theme. So I was trying to remember.
Oh, wow.
I knew he had done something that's so he was the guy that did the iconic James Bond theme. So
awesome. What other kind of music do you like other than I know we talked about jazz. You have some favorite jazz musicians, or? Yeah,
I mean, I really do like all music, so that's a tough one. But if I'm gonna just sit back and listen to something that's just gonna, definitely jazz. Ella Fitzgerald is one of my favorite jazz vocalists. Actually, my daughter's name is Ella, so partially named after her and partially a family name. But I love Coleman, Ben Webster, Coleman Hawkins. Love a lot of the sax players. Of course, Louis Armstrong. I like the classic jazz, kind of not so much the more smooth jazz, although I don't mind it either. But I like more of the classic stuff. Love a lot of Latin music, Latin jazz, any kind of Latin sound. I love any kind of soul or funk or old R&B. I love that. So like Otis Redding, Sam Cooke, all of those guys, Solomon Burke, Aretha Franklin. I actually got to play with her once, that's probably like my most up there moments of all time.
You should have led with that.
One of those, it was just one of those things where it's just like, you don't even, it was one gig, and it was like, oh my gosh, you can't even believe you're doing that, but no, I just love that, like any kind of funk or anything with a groove to it like that. And I grew up also on country music. So, a lot of people, that's kind of like pineapple on pizza, either love it or you don't, but I think I just love it all. It's just kind of, it all comes from the same place, especially American music. It's all rooted in, either the rhythms that came over from Africa. Unfortunately, it got here in an unfortunate way, but man, I'm so thankful, for the music that we got. And then obviously then you have the European influences, and then everything from the South America and everything that we're just a big melting pot. And so I don't know if that.
Absolutely. I think my favorite song of all time is probably At Last by Etta James.
Oh yeah.
I hear that, and I can feel the tears and the emotion just welling up in me. I grew up in the Northeast and then transplanted to Texas, so I was a little late to the country music and not quite. I just can't quite get into it. Some of the more rockish country I can do okay with. Much to my wife's dismay, because she really likes country music.
Okay.
But Neil Diamond, I grew up on. Lawrence Welk is another one that I enjoy. Benny Goodman. A lot of the jazz orchestral shows that they had in the 70s, I really liked. If I'm ever really just want to be thoughtful about stuff, I'll throw on Robert Johnson, great blues guy. And so it's just I love music. I love all music. The most that I've probably listened to is probably rock. But that's when I was in my 20s and 30s. I got the pleasure of meeting a few rock musicians, and that got me really going and getting into it. The cool story about Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. My grandfather did his very first tattoo.
Really?
That's
crazy.
Yep. And he came down to the studio, and one time my grandfather called me up and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Just hanging out at the house. "Oh, come by the studio." I'm like, "Oh, I think I'm going to pass." He, No, really, come by the studio. And I'm like, "All right, Gramps." So went down there and got to meet him, and so that was cool. Awesome. Got to meet Marilyn Manson before one of his shows. Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains, quite a few other people here and there that I really enjoyed meeting. So I love music in just about any shape, form, or fashion that I can get.
Yep, I'm with you.
All right. Well, I mean, man, we've been going at this for about an hour already. Time has already flown by.
Just scratched the surface here. So.
Right. I know it's crazy. We'll definitely have to schedule a part 2.
Let's do it.
But by the time that I'm gonna get this edited down, and I think I'm gonna throw in some of our favorite music pieces in our discussion for the Anchor channel. It's going to be a little over an hour long, and so I think this would probably be a good place to end it for today. Okay. Man, I really appreciate you coming on. Great insight into the music of Star Wars and music in general. You really don't know how much I appreciate you coming on.
Oh no, the honor's mine. I mean, this is great. I feel like we could go back and forth on this for a while. I love talking Star Wars and then music. You can't go wrong. I'm just glad it wasn't a pineapple on pizza intervention after all.
Oh, well, next time.
Okay. Oh, I saw Rez come on, and I was like, oh, great. Here it is.
I think he was late on purpose. Yeah. That way it didn't get brought up. But,
right.
Well, tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, I'm online at CamRay on Twitter, and that's pretty much it. Instagram and Facebook are for just like keeping up with old friends and family. And I'm not really that active on there, but pretty much on Twitter doing the Star Wars thing. So met a lot of cool people like you and everybody in the chat. So I'm loving it. So
yeah, it's I've been in I think, on Twitter for almost a year now. I've been doing the podcasting thing since January. I've met so many friends through Star Wars Twitter that I consider a lot of you guys family. And
Great.
to me, that's just absolutely amazing that we could sit and talk like this. If you were to say, hey, I got some time tomorrow, you want to get on and chat, we could definitely talk for another hour or 2 hours or 3 hours and just keep going.
Oh, for sure.
People will probably be bored to tears, but we'd have a good time doing it.
Yeah.
But absolutely. And and of course you can find me at Red4Charlie on Twitter. I am on Instagram. Just let me know that you want to reach out on Twitter, because I don't know my Instagram thing yet. It's got my name with some numbers on it, and I don't remember that, surprisingly. But Facebook is mainly for private. I have a few people on Facebook that I keep up with, but mainly Twitter, Anchor. Just look up Charlie Skywalker, and of course here on YouTube. Just look up Charlie Skywalker. You'll see the logo, and we'll be here for your next conversation. We got some awesome shows coming up. Again, Cam Ray, I really appreciate you coming on. Hopefully you have a great rest of your night, and we'll catch you over on Twitter.
Well, thank you. Have a good one.
Absolutely. May the Force be with you.
You too.